I'm Dan. I'm the marketing director for Bethany Global University. My confession is, I've never actually been on the field as a missionary, nor have I actually seen any of our global internship sites. I know, it's sad. And I wanted to change that. Not only did I want to go, but I wanted to help bring you with me through this video.
Are you nervous about our trip?
No, though, and okay, maybe a little bit. So we're hungry. We need to get some food. Just gotta go to a restaurant and get some shawarma. Chris, what time is it?
12:43.
It's 12:43. I'm really tired now. I'm like, it's after lunch. Jet lag's gonna come and grab me. And it's here, I'm tired. But water is helping. We just finished shawarma, which is kind of like the only thing you can order here.
Yeah.
And now we're on our way to Tim's house to hang out. I don't know, what are we doing at Tim's house?
So Tim is our site leader, so he oversees the internship site, and
Right.
I think he's going to give you a debriefing on what your week's going to look like with this.
Are these both for me?
Yep, we can. So you got to be going, dude. Woo, it's hot.
So why are we in the town of Marneuli? Marneuli is a very interesting place. Georgia, as you know, is a very Orthodox country. Marneuli itself is predominantly Muslim, Azeri Muslim. And when the Lord opened up the Azeri people, he revealed to us in the Caucasus, there's 77 unreached people groups. And the Azerbaijani people have the most access to those 77 unreached people groups. And so by reaching the Azerbaijani people, we will have access to the rest of the 77 unreached people groups in this region. I'm really excited for you to be able to see what the interns are a part of, what they have been doing already. Because on my internship, what they have been able to do has surpassed what we did on our internship.
It's good. Definitely learned a lot more about what's going on in this region and Tim's vision for how he's getting everything connected together, people sent out and working together, so it's awesome.
Is this rolling? Man, that's awesome. I'm so tired. I decided not to sleep this morning, and now it's 5:30, and I'm just waiting another 30 minutes so I can go to bed, get back on a normal sleep cycle.
Hey, so next up, we're hiking this mountain. So this is probably the most epic interview location I've ever been in. Thanks for hiking a quarter mile, half mile, a whole mile up to this mountain. But I wanted to ask you guys some questions to kind of get an idea of like how internship's been for you. Starting with, why did you choose Georgia?
I think what interested me the most was the location, the people groups, and the culture. Just where I want to, where I'm maybe possibly hoping to go long term.
Nick, after you decided that Georgia was the one and you got accepted to Georgia, how has it been transitioning from your life in America to a totally different place here in Georgia?
But because of where we are here, and the Azeri and Turkish culture that's kind of interwoven in here, and some of the rural culture, we're outside of the city, and it's been interesting. In some ways it's been difficult, but also in those ways it's been really rewarding. So there's different uses of time, different ways that just things that normally would take you 10 minutes now take you 30 minutes. And so understanding how to spend your time throughout the day, how to that's probably been one of the most difficult things for me.
Have you had a similar experience, or how's your transition been?
Yeah, the transition has been pretty much about the same. Some other things that were kind of awkward and hard to get used to at first was the interaction between men and women, or rather lack thereof interaction between men and women. So even for us as a team, Nick and I interacting with the girls, like for the longest time, they weren't allowed to come over to our apartment. Even as we began learning language, like it was frustrating. We're learning Azeri. You'd speak Azeri in the market, but then you'd go to like a grocery store and it would be Georgians running it, and you would go to ask them a question and they didn't understand you because they speak Georgian.
It was hard to kind of die to myself a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But then once you do that and you really involve your team in what you're doing, it makes it a much better experience.
Yeah, I will say, as I've been able to watch you guys work together, I could see like how close knit you guys have become.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's been so many things that have amazed me throughout the way that I haven't even really thought about that, but I have noticed that about, especially between the two of you and Crystal working together a lot.
Woo! Sorry, I just had to kick it off like that because today was like that kind of high energy. The idea was, okay, let's go up on top, the highest place, let's climb up there, and let's do some interviews on top the mountain, right? Which was great, and we got up there and we did it, and it was epic. I'm like, I've never done an interview with people like in such a cool location, and I don't know, it'll be hard to one-up it, that's for sure. But I will say, while we were sitting there, a storm started approaching. I mean, miles away, but we started to hear the thunder roll across like the valley between us, and I'm like, oh. Immediately as we're doing the interview, I'm like, well, it's a good thing it's a while away. We got time to get down. We'll be good. We'll be good. But now we're starting to pack up from the interview, and Leslie, one of our media teams, her hair is starting to stand up on her head. I'm like, Leslie, did your hair do that like 10 minutes ago? And she's like, what? And her hair is sticking up as if someone had just rubbed a balloon on it and brought it up. Yeah, it was sticking up that much. And I'm like, wait a second, like I know lightning can travel like a distance and the fact that we're all can stick our hands in the air and feel the electricity in the air that's probably not the best sign. So we quickly packed up and headed down the mountain a little bit, but it definitely made the whole thing adventurous, because without those things happening, it's not really an adventure, right? Until there's a little bit of risk involved. Not quite the same.
So we are here with my language tutor, Rasul, and we're going to do a language lesson in Azerbaijani with Dan. The goal being that he can go out and buy a few things at the Bazaar without any help after this, without any English.
Currently at the moment, it's really awkward. I just point to something and I try to use my fingers to say how many, and it never really goes smoothly. It eventually works out, but it's really difficult.
Benim dostlarım buradadır, məktəbdən deyirlər, kino edirlər ve bu dostum o Azerbaycan dili öğrenmek istiyor. Ona göre o almalı.
1 kilo neçə yedər?
Neçə yedir? 1 kilo?
Yaxşı.
Yaxşı. Bir lari istiyor. Soha. So we got a bunch of free vegetables as well, so that's pretty great. Sometimes they don't like when you just buy one vegetable, they just like, there's kind of some superstitions, like what's healthy, what's not, what needs to go together.
In my mind, a quesarito is a burrito, but wrapped in a quesadilla. So some people do it single walled, where you have cheese on one layer tortilla, but the cheese is kind of like plastered to the outside, it's been melted on. Some people do it double walled, where it's pretty much a whole round quesadilla. You put all the burrito stuff inside, then you roll it, and then you have like a quesadilla burrito goodness. That's a quesarito. Is that what we're making?
Pretty much, yeah.
Awesome.
So we have chicken that we're going to shred. We're going to dice some onions, cilantro. We're going to make rice and coconut milk.
Okay.
And then we have the azeri lavash, the thin wraps,
Okay.
and we will season up the chicken and fry it a little bit and put it all together, and we'll layer the cheese out on the lavash, we'll show you, and then wrap it up so it like creates that cheesy layer without having to do two
Nice.
layers of lavash.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll
Awesome.
pan sear it and stick it in the oven.
Today was an exciting day. The first thing we did was we spent maybe an hour, hour and a half at a coffee shop just learning the language. I learned Azeri, I learned how to count to 10. I learned some basic phrases and words, or at least enough so I could go into the marketplace, kind of say a greeting, you know, say hi, how are you? Just enough to say that little thing. And we practiced and we practiced and we practiced, and I understood the numbers, so I could say, if he told me how much they were, I could figure it out. So we did. After that, after just a little bit of review, I was able to go into the marketplace, and with some difficulty, able to order some onions from a local vendor there. How much more so if you get to spend 16 months overseas on the global internship. The second thing we did was just spending some time cooking. I will say the guys living here have an unfair advantage in that Chris did some culinary school and just has a lot of experience in culinary, but still he was able to kind of find different ingredients in order to mix them together. Again, after doing those things, mainly the language learning and that ethnography class, I could say that, man, without too much more time, I'd feel much more confident stepping into any culture to learn the language, learn how the people work in order to make a bridge for the gospel. Crystal teaches an English class here in Marnuli, so we thought it'd be great to tag along with her and I don't know, see what she's doing in this English class, meet the students in her class, and I get to give a little 5-minute lesson, mainly just having conversation with them to practice their English. How many of you use Instagram? About everybody? No, not so much? Or Facebook? Is Facebook popular here? Yeah, so no, just Instagram? When you guys look at these social media feeds, Instagram and Facebook, what kind of things do you see on there most of the time? Friends. I ask people and I pull up your phone and I try to see what are the types of things that they like to watch, what are the types of things they like to see, and then we create those things for different companies. The students brought me along into some of their ministry they're doing in teaching English, which I've never really studied English intensively, let alone how to teach it. But luckily, some of the students are already pretty good English speakers themselves, so all I did was just talk to them and just keep the conversation going so that they could practice their English, as well as learn about them and asking them questions about what do you like to do and what are your aspirations, where do you want to go. So it was really fun actually to get into some of these high schoolers' heads as far as like what aspirations they have and what their hopes and what their dreams are. I don't know, it just starts to make a people group come more alive when you can hear about their desires and their hearts. The second class was different in that Chris kind of set it up like an interview, so they had been kind of studying journalism a little bit with English as the backdrop, right? So they had to ask me questions in English and then take notes in English, and they would ask me questions about what do I like about being a marketer? What do I like about traveling to this country? What things have I noticed? And I really wish we were here a little longer just so I could go back and do it some more, just to get to know the students on an individual basis would just be so much fun. So we're here in a marketplace, and not just any marketplace. The one here in Marnuli, I believe it's called the Bazaar, and specifically like a warehouse in the Bazaar. And I wanted to ask Crystal and Beth some questions about how their global internship's gone so far. Starting with Crystal, why did you choose Georgia?
I knew that I had a passion for people and a passion for God, and so I just said, really I'd love to go anywhere. And Georgia was one of my main options because I knew I could go into a culture and it would be such a great experience to go in as a learner and not to have any preconceived ideas of that culture or of that people.
What are some of the ways that global internships added value?
I think the best thing about this is the team I work with and the leaders that I get to be under, because as a team we get to experience new things, we get to know so many different people just because everybody's spread out through Georgia or through Marnuli, and they meet different people, and so we can talk about it and experience it together. And it's given me a lot of responsibility and a way to have that follow up with that responsibility that I'm given.
How have you been able to essentially add value to the community here in this place since you've been here?
So one thing that I was not prepared for, everyone would say, like, a lot of the sites would, like, future interns would come back and seniors, and they would say, you know, I taught English, and I was like, oh, that sounds great for you, but I will never teach English. Like, I have a teacher's heart. I really wanted to be a teacher one day, but that was just not interesting for me. And now that I am an English teacher, I think learning how to become an English teacher, how to create lesson plans, how to work with your students, and figuring out what's exciting for them to learn. So I think that's a way that I've been able to add value to the community.
Certainly, it's because it's what the community's asking for.
Yeah.
They want to learn English, right?
And there's such a big need here for English speakers and for the students.
So Crystal's been teaching English. Have you also taught English?
Yes, I have.
You have. And do you find it is your primary way of giving back value to the community, or are there other ways you've been able to add value to this community?
Being able to encourage and kind of build up the missionaries who live here and who are planted in here, the Azeri missionaries, the Korean missionaries, to give them encouragement and push them forward has also been a big part, more than I thought it would be. When I came here, I thought, oh yeah, I'll be ministering to all the unbelievers and reaching out to the people who don't know who Christ is, but a lot of my ministry is also encouraging and building up the missionaries who are already here.
Today was a pretty easygoing day. I mean, we had an awesome chance to do interviews with two of our female students, and it was fun to talk to the two girls about their experience and how global internship has impacted them. What did they miss about America? How is God working in their lives? It's just always good to get those stories so that even me as a staff member of BGU gets a sense of, like, what are we actually accomplishing here? What's the work being done? So it was good to see, and I hope you enjoyed that footage. So we're going to the main city, the capital of this country, which is very European and Western looking. And then Marnuli is different. Yeah, it's Azeri looking, which is more, I don't know, how do you, I guess you'll just have to see. You'll just have to come with us and see what Marnuli looks like. On top of us.
Yeah.
Just for us.
No. So there's churches on top of, like, almost every hill in Georgia.
Yeah.
Why do they have so many churches on top of hills here?
Well, it's significant because it's the highest ground, so no matter where you are, you can always see the church. No matter where you are in Marnuli, you can always see the church on top. In Marnuli, it's kind of a unique place. It's the largest city in Georgia with majority Azerbaijani people. So the majority of people here in Marnuli, which is all that you can see here behind us, are Azerbaijani people, about 80 to 85% of them. But because we're in Georgia, the Orthodox Church still gets precedent here, so they put that on top of the hill, and there's one down in town as well. But most people would not come up here to the Orthodox Church because they're Azeri Muslim people.
Yeah, so it's funny, this probably doesn't even have, like, an active congregation in it.
No.
It's more of like a symbolic thing the state does to show that, like, we're a Christian nation, therefore we're gonna put a church on top of every high place.
Absolutely.
So right now, we're at this, I think it's the largest mosque in Marnuli. Nick, one of our BGU students, just went inside to see if we can go in and film. So right now we're just waiting to get the okay from him.
We're good. Because we can come in and we can film. I told her, you know, I live here, I'm studying language, I think your mosque is beautiful, we want to come in and just see it and film. I said, you guys are from our university. She said, okay. She called someone. But she said, yeah, we can go in, we can look, we can take a few pictures. You guys will need head coverings. I think they might have some if you didn't bring one. But we're good. We can head in.
Cool.
So to my knowledge, this is the newest mosque in Marnuli. It was built around 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. And it was actually people from Iran, some Iranian Muslims came and they funded and built this mosque for the local area. So there's another mosque about this size on the other side of town. But this is equal to the largest mosque here.
So we just came back from Oven, right? Where we just had the bakery goods and stuff. It was an awesome little lunch, and now we're going to Tbilisi. So how often do we go to Tbilisi? How do you guys go to Tbilisi?
We probably go to Tbilisi once every few weeks with the ministries we've been doing here. We stay pretty busy, but it's a really great place to go and just to go explore the city.
So behind us here, Dan, is called Peace Bridge. Peace Bridge.
Okay.
The Bridge of Peace. And it was designed by an Italian architect, and it's to connect Old Tbilisi and New Tbilisi.
So we're getting on the gondola. Hopefully, if we can get high enough, we can get a good overview of the city, take a look at what we're actually, I don't know, from getting a perspective of the old and the new part of Tbilisi from a bird's eye view. How did you learn all these historical facts? It's almost like you could be a tour guide for the city almost.
So we had a history class in which we had to look up Georgia's history, and we had to build a timeline. So as we did this, we studied the Orthodox history, all the wars, and everything about like the churches. So we just wound up learning a lot of information, which was really cool in a 6-week period. Tbilisi's largest Georgian Orthodox church. It's the biggest one here, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Tbilisi is just an amazing city. I would come here for vacation. It is just that interesting and fun to explore. The other thing that really truly was fun to see was our students' knowledge of the area. Believe me, as we were walking around and you saw bits and pieces, they explained like statues or landmarks, but in between all those things, what you didn't see was I was just grilling them with questions about everything, like economics, politics, culture, peoples, like everything, and they almost always had an answer for things. And I know that's kind of the goal of the whole program, right? Is so that they get eyes to see through culture, to see through the systems quickly, so that they can better adapt, though it's not without its challenges. Woo! So, if you remember at the beginning of the trip, or for you, the beginning of the video, I talked about having a hesitation with missions because of not necessarily a bad experience, but not a good experience with a short-term mission trip that I had been on. A totally different experience actually going there in person. I mean, it's the big reason why we even send our students, because we can't help them know from the classroom. They have to get in it, they have to wrestle with it and have some hard days, have some good days, have the wins, learn the language. It's a different experience altogether. And I can attest to that. Now I understand why we send all our students over there to learn. I can't wait to see where this journal ends up next.